All right, well, I'm going to give you some news that everybody wants to hear. We are now loading into the first game. It is about to begin, the first game of the evening, as we can see Vortix from the STC.
Vortix from South Korea, the STC from Spain. There we go. They are all switched around.
That makes the crowd happy.
That's right, that's right. And of course, the home crowd here is behind Vortix the whole way. Luciferon, of course, making it into the round of 16 as well. Came up a little bit short against Targa, though. And, oh, yes.
All right, as we're now loading into this, it will be beginning any second now. A very tense moment as the Hydralisk stares down the Marine. This is going to happen, a best of 3, as we just said. A lot is on the line. Everybody focused on the first place finish. It's not just about this, it's moving on another level, getting to the final, the ever so important final. Vortix is now ready, the STC is ready, and we are also.
And down here at the 6 o'clock position on Metropolis, we have our red Terran player from Quantic Gaming. It is the STC. And his opponent at the 3 o'clock position, our blue Xrd player from Karate Esports Club. Give it up for Vortix.
Well, let's see if what everybody wants here is going to happen. Vortix went through the first group stage here at this DreamHack tournament 2-0. He then went through a second place in the second group stage 2-1. And then in the round of 16s, we commentated his games earlier today. He smashed Violet 2-0 in a really, really fast Zerg versus Zerg, where if you think about it, this is where Vortex's weakness has been.
And, you know, he initially started in that first game against Violet. Very strong play, was able to actually just out-Mutalisk the build of Violet. But game number 2, he had a very smart strategy. He knew that Violet was going to go for a 15 hatch, decides to switch it up, and then go straight for a 10 pool, and obliterated his opponent in a matter of about 5 minutes.
Vortix, his strongest matchup is this one we are seeing right now. He has had weakness in Zerg versus Zerg. His Zerg versus Prodigy is good, but he actually shines in this matchup. I've seen his games online. I've seen his games live. He is extraordinarily good within this matchup, and the STC is absolutely going to have his work cut out for him here. But we already see the STC opening up with a very macro-focused structure, and opening is going to be going for that command center first.
And we'll see how Vortix responds. Of course, some players lately have been going for 3 hatch before pool. Don't think that's likely here, but certainly I imagine a more economical opening from Vortix as we move along. STC, of course, forced to pull a couple of SCVs off the line just to deal with this drone, though. Whenever you try to do this, it can be a bit risky, but the reward is certainly worth it.
Absolutely, as that drone now is pushed away. The spawning pull and the immediate follow-up to this. But Vortix has a couple of options set up. He already knows his opponent's gone command center first. Vortix now decides to go for an all-in to try to punish such greed in terms of grabbing this very early on command center first. But this overall is going to poke in. And upon seeing the gas here, this is actually going to tell him that it's not a super greedy build, not going straight up for an additional command center, not adding on additional barracks. But upon seeing that, that refinery, he knows that the factory follow should be coming here. And the other option, of course, instead of going for an all-in aggressive tactic that Vortix could do, is very simply just go and take a relatively fast third base.
That's right. We'll see what he decides to do here in just a bit. But of course, he's bypassed gas for a while, so we're going to see a little more normal 4-queen build to start things off, and we'll see what he ends up running into afterwards. But very macro strategies thus far. Vortix has a lot of flexibility here. We've seen him individually go after quick muta play right after the sticking on 2 bases and quad gassing, but other times he has decided to go for that little bit longer macro route as you were suggesting before.
So we do see the STC sending out his first SCV scout, realizes his opponent's not down there. Doesn't even go up to the high ground, realizing that he would have seen the creep on the low ground. At this stage of the game, there's absolutely going to be a hatchery down there. So we already have a Marine inside the front base, making sure that no Overlord gets an easy scouting route into the main base. And with the double gases down, there is the factory coming in for the STC, and will be followed shortly, most likely here, by a reactor on the barracks to go for those initial Hellions.
You know, we've mentioned that Vortix plays very, very well in TVZ. But, you know, we've even seen it a week ago against his own brother, who ended up finishing 3rd at WCS Europe. And Luciferon certainly no slouch when it comes to TVZ himself. So Vortix has got a lot of different styles figured out. He knows how to play against mech. He knows how to play against biomech as well. So we'll see what he has to deflect now. But, of course, still no gas quite yet.
And you actually bring up a very good point. And I'll hold that thought, though, because a second factory is coming down here. And the STC has some special tactics coming. Whether that's going to be for Blue Flame or whether he's just going to go for a secondary reactor here and then start to power through with Hellions. But he's going to dedicate to this by going for a second factory. That actually takes away a lot from the infrastructure. There is the second refinery coming down. And the question now, is Vortix going to scout? And is he going to be able to actually find out what's going on? Because if he doesn't, there's going to be way too many Hellions coming through. And already the STC moving Marines into position to deny the potential scouting of Vortix. And this could be a disastrous start here for the Spanish player.
Double reactored Hellions is very, very strong at this stage, especially with Vortix going to gas so late. We've seen some variations of the 4-Queen build, which revolves around putting up a quicker 2 gas to be able to catch back up in technology. But Vortix actually waits a little bit longer and puts up 3 at the same time. But of course, that's going to delay speed so much. He's got extra queens coming out. In fact, we take a look at the unit tab here and confirm how many. Yeah, this is going to be a full 6-Queen build.
And the Overlord inside the main base will fall down to those 2 Marines. Vortix does not get the scout that is necessary here, and this could be very, very detrimental to his game. We do see a couple of wall-offs though with it, or a couple of evolution chambers to create a wall-off. That will help. It may be able to buy Vortix the time necessary, but that third base is so wide open that damage is going to be dealt across that third base, absolutely, and we could see that fall down, but look at that. 4x4 Hellions will be coming out, and they are going to be doing a lot of damage unless we see something come down. I mean, if you think about it, there's not even a single aggressive unit out there. Only 6 Queens are on the map. There's no Zerglings. There's Spore Crawlers coming down because he doesn't know what's coming on. There's a Baneling Nest which could help out, but he doesn't even have the links to morph into Banelings.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we do see play like this every once in a while out of Terran players. A lot of times we'll even see a strong Marauder Hellion all in, but this is being executed so differently that I'm not sure if Vortix is going to know what's going to hit him here.
And only 6 Hellions have been shown, but there's 6 more hiding in the main base. So right now the SDC is just showing a regular style of play, showing that this could be just a simple 1 factory reactor. And there is no way in God's earth that Vortix can actually find out about this. And already we're seeing drones go down on the natural.
That's right, but Vortix is going to think that he's handling this pretty well. Yes, he lost some drones, but he's going to think, all right, okay, I've cleared out those Hellions. We've moved past this stage of the game. But look at this, STC going right back and constructing 3 barracks now. He's going to make a ton of bio units, and he's going to have +1 and stim in place.
All right, is Vortix going to be able to hold on? There are 20 Lings in the production right now. That third base, that's a goner. Because STC is definitely looking to get into the natural because he knows that's where, oh my God, Vortix knows about it now. He sees the Hellions. He's going to have to transfuse to keep the front line open before the Lings can actually come in to defend.
And he does manage to land a couple of transfusions right away, gets even a couple of Lings out there to help push away these Hellions, but the positioning is just so good for the Hellions, he's able to just rock through all of those Zerglings. Vortix is finally starting to push this back behind. Oh, and a nice transfusion is able to keep all 4 of those Queens alive. STC in retreat.
And that has given Vortix enough time to build Lings. He's got 22 more on the way. So by the looks of it, Vortix is going to hold on, but there is going to be a secondary wave of this. We see factory tanks, 2x2 coming out. We have the armor upgrade now being researched, as well as the +1 that had finished before. There is going to be a secondary follow twist. There is no third base come down, and STC is throwing all his resources into aggressive units.
Yes.
There is siege tanks coming, or the siege tech coming. Vortix needs to get onto these Hellions so he can mine from that third base, so he's actually able to build enough units to defend.
Oh, and he does trap a bunch of the Hellions, all but 2 getting away. It looks like those are going to be shot down here momentarily. We can see the resources lost for both players. Slightly in the advantage of Vortix at the moment. He is losing a lot of Lings on the way out. Good control from SDC there. Few Mutalisks on the way, 8 of them to be correct, but SDC has not expanded. He does not have a 3rd command center down quite yet, and he is just powering ahead, as you said, with just pure aggressive units.
Yeah, and now with the Mutalisks on the way, all the minerals are going to be thrown into drones to saturate that third base to make sure he has enough economy to be able to defend against any form of 2-base attack. There is the 3rd command center coming, but the Mutalisks are on the way to the main base, and there are no turrets. There's hardly any anti-air. The Stim Marines do not have combat shields. They are not in position, and right now the SDC is moving out, so Vortix has the best opportunity to go in to get into the SCV line.
We'll see if he can do just that. As you said, there are no turrets whatsoever, so the Marines all did just head out. He is producing 9 at a time, so maybe he can rally enough back to help defend for a little while, but these are a lot of dead SCVs. But what does Vortix have to defend this big push that's coming right up the front?
9 Banelings and 16 Lings that are about to pop out. out. There are a handful out anyway, but the Mutalisk can come back to join forces with the Lings and Banelings. And if he uses the Mutalisk well, he can bring down the tanks, and he's going to go for one at the back. Oh, he's got to be so careful not to lose them carelessly. But there are 42 more Lings about to join the Banelings, which will be connected with Baneling speed in a couple of seconds' time. If Vortix breaks this down, there is no third base. STC would play this rest of the game from a very, very big deficit.
Oh, great position with the Mutalisk on the high ground. They snipe one of the tanks, and he needs every tank possible because Vortix is moving in right now. There's a pretty good spread of units out there for the STC, but he just doesn't have enough stuff, and he's going to lose his entire attacking force.
And the Vortix smashes that back. He's even going to get all these Marines in the center here. And the Lings do have 1-1, but he's not quite ready to take that fight. But there was a big stim there. There are no medivacs, remember. There's no starport in this game. So those Marines are pretty much rendered useless in the middle. There's no second engineering bay. There is no armory. The longevity of the STC's play has been shut down because of the early failed aggression with the reactor Hellions, because of this secondary push. And now Vortix has a big army. He has 2-2 on the way. He can now go and take another base, but he's building nothing but aggressive units. 5 overlords on the way. He's going to continue to build Lings, and he will actually put the heat back over to the STC.
And the STC, every time he stims up units to try and move against these Mutalisks. Very nice job. Oh, he almost great control there, as he did duck away with the Mutalisks, but unfortunately he was just slightly in range, and one of them did get picked off. A little annoying Zergling there, picking up a couple of Marines for free as the STC tries to free up those destructible rocks to take his third.
All right, the STC is going to be spread very thin right now, and Vortix, if he sees the opportunity on that third base, if he sees a lack of units, absolutely he's going to jump on that chance to bring down, to slow down the STC. Nobody can come with an aggressive strategy like that and try to pull it off in front of a Spanish audience.
That's right, so here comes Vortix now, and we'll see what he can do as he stages up off to the left-hand side. Hive-Tech is about halfway done, though, and Vortix is going to move up to very high-tech units very soon. He also has enough gas around to put out quite a few infestors, but now he's just going to rush ahead. He's got to make sure that these Banelings don't get targeted out. He's not able to engage with all the Banelings at the same time, and coming in a little bit piecemeal right here, believe it or not, his SCC is going to be able to do a lot of damage, but he still will be able to put pressure on this orbital command.
Yeah, nice assault there by Vortix. Not the best one. I mean, he didn't get the maximum amounts of damage from that, but now he's going in again. Banelings are going to chase down these Marines. Big explosion from Vortix on a handful of Marines, and with 2-2 now finished up, more and more Lings are coming. The infestors are on the way. The Hive is almost finished as well here, and Vortix is just doing nothing wrong in this game.
Not to mention that Vortix has great creep spread going through the middle of the map as well. Even with the early pressure that was taken, he's being very diligent in making sure he gets out 3-4 creep tumors at a time, and just that highway that runs across is going to give him such better flanking opportunities. Ultralisk Cavern is coming up now with Adrenal Gland, so he's moving into that very highly upgraded melee unit stage, and honestly, STC's medevacs have been just non-existent the entire game. Finally, we have a reactor starport coming up, but we're 16 minutes into the game.
Yeah, and let me just tell you from personal experience of playing at a professional level, when you go into playing against the home favorite and you do something like that and it doesn't work, the pressure mounts up. Trust me, it really mounts up. So it looks like the STC may be feeling it as Vortix is ready. The infestors are there. He's going to launch another attack. 3-3's on the way. The Ultralisk Cavern has just finished up as well, so Ultralisk will make their way onto the board in a few moments' time, and the Vortix is going to put the pressure onto the STC again.
And he is moving through, but this is still a well-developed tank position for the STC, and Vortix knows that he can't attack it directly, so he fungles some of the SCVs, picks off a couple mules as well, but recognizes that he has to get out there with doing a little bit of economic damage.
Yeah, I mean, Vortix can't get too much accomplished here. There is a very solid tank line. There's a bunch of Marines there as well to help protect that location. But the real problem is that all the upgrades are about to get together now for Vortix, and then the Ultralists are on the way out. Vortix has a 4th base. He has a 5th base, and STC has done nothing to slow down the production and economy of Vortix throughout this game after those initial early attempts, and that has just been given to Vortix, and he is using that money so well.
I've got to hand it to the STC, though. After the initial part of this game when he had, you know, kind of that failed attack at the beginning, his Hellions got caught out really without doing any damage at all. It was an admirable job just to be able to stay in it at that point, much less be on relatively even supply, going up to a 4th base and a 5th base right now. So STC has been playing very well.
And a lot of command centers coming down to really replenish the economy that he doesn't quite have. But at the same time, we see 20 Lings in the production tab, 14 Banelings. The 2 medevac drops, though, are going to come up here for the STC, and he may be able to get this hatchery. Vortix has no idea. He does not have overloads on that left-hand side, and that is a small victory there for the STC.
Yeah, but he is going to meet the entire army of Vortix, so that army is going to fall. I'm sorry, that base is going to fall, but what is the SDC going to do about this position? He's got a lot of tanks sitting in the middle. He's even going ahead and putting a hard container there with a lot of turrets, but here comes Vortix going to crash his way through. Does he have what it takes to break through this entire tank line? He kills a lot of tanks up in the front, but there's still so many sitting behind, still 4 remaining.
Oh, and there's 5 Ultras here with very little answer at the moment, even without 3-3, which is going to finish very shortly here. Vortix beats down the army of the STC. At the same time, he's trying to hold on to his economy at the back. He is knocking on that front door, but it is not going to open at the current point in time. Oh, it does burst down, and the Ultras are doing a lot of damage, but the SDC is doing so much to Vortix's economy at the back.
Yeah, this drop has paid for itself almost 10 times over. It's killed a base, it neutralized the economy at another. A total of 19 workers have been killed, which makes up for the amount of losses that STC suffered at the beginning.
And the STC gets caught there by a fungal, and the secondary or third fungal is available as well for Vortix, who is now building, or should be building, more Ultras to join up forces, but he is slowing the income down a lot for the STC, who is chasing down a few of these Ultras. But look at the minimap, we have a lot of Lings about to join. After that drop was dealt, 130 supply to 122. Vortix is at the advantage, but right now the STC is starting to stabilize a little bit more. He's got good upgrades. He's going to get in that third base mining again.
Yes, he is, and he's going to try to take a 4th and a 5th at the same time. We'll see if he's able to do that here in a second, as the Zergling is denying that orbital command from being placed once again. So SDC has pretty good units. He's moving into a very traditional biomech composition, but as we can see, Vortix is putting up his Greater Spire. He's mining off of 8 gas. He's reestablishing his 5th, and things are starting to look pretty good for him as well. But he has a ton of gas banked at the moment.
Yeah, he really does, and that will be spent as soon as he actually gets the mineral economy going again. 67 drones is not too bad, but he isn't mining from that 4th and 5th base efficiently yet, and he is running out of mineral patches inside the main base, which is why he has a lot of gas at the moment. But really good position by the STC. He's actually utilizing position more so than anything else in this game to be able to combat Vortix's army.
Wow, and Vortix is going for it. He drops a fungal and catches a lot of medefacts, trying to rush him with the rest of the units behind. But this is a great spread of units for the STC. Does he have enough to back this up? The Banelings have done quite a bit. The Ultras still have not fallen as well. And once again, Vortix does destroy the defensive army up at the front.
And there are 6 Ultras there, fully upgraded. Some of them are low, but some of them are very high in hit points, and they continue the assault. The SEC is trying to hang on to everything he has. Another great fungal, another great connection with these Ultras. The SEC has hardly any units remaining, and the economy of the SEC is going to be destroyed on that third base as Ultras make their way into the SCV line.
That's right. And it looks like he's just going to go after the orbital command. It does lift off, though, just before it lights on fire. Oh, just one fungal on that, and that would be a ton of dead SCVs. Still pretty good there. He's going to be able to clean a lot of those up, unless he just gets away. All right, lucky SCVs.
The STC is hanging on by dear life. 107 supply versus 132. The problem are there's Corruptors. The Greatest Spire is done, and Vortix is flying the Brood, or flying the Corruptors right over to the other side of the map to morph incredibly close to the base of the STC, who has no idea about those 7 Broodlords about to morph, 9 Broodlords about to morph. There are 0 Vikings. There's 1 Starport. The anti-air is minimal just because there's actually only Marauders out there. There are actually additional Starports come down that I did miss, but they are not ready and operational to deal with the Broodlords that are morphing right now.
And they did just switch over to Tech Labs as well, so maybe we're going to see Ravens or something along those lines pop out, because he still doesn't have any sort of idea about the Spire play. Here comes Vortix, though, right up the front. SDC going to try another drop around the side, but Vortix has such a strong unit composition here. You can begin sieging up these units and forcing the siege tanks of SDC back.
And down fall the Broodlings as they start to bring down 1 tank at a time. Another tank has been targeted down, another tank is going to fall, and the SDC's army is being ripped apart by the Broodlords, and there's just no answer. Ultralis bringing down a Planetary Fortress on the left-hand side as well. Great connections with those fungals.
And the Planetary Fortress is being repaired up, but it doesn't matter. The SDC GG's. Vortix takes game number 1.
The Spanish player gets a great start here in the round of 8, the quarterfinals, as he picks up the first map against the STC. The STC did a great job hanging in there, but ever since that early start, the early great advantage Vortix gained, it was a slow and painful death for the STC. Vortix was at a lead, and he would never drop that advantage. He never dropped that lead, never overextended, and takes map number 1 over the STC. And the second map is going to be Cloud Kingdom.
Yeah, good on the SDC for making it so competitive, though, after that attack was shut down so hard by Vortix. He had a great defensive position throughout the entire time. You mentioned Cloud Kingdom is in the map. I think we're going to see a little bit more standard play, not something that's designed to kill Vortix right away like that double reactored Hellion build.
Yeah, I think, especially when you open up to a best-of-3 series, if you decide to play the game, your gameplay is to go for an aggressive option in game number 1, such as we saw from the SDC, you won't be doing that in game number 2. You will be playing more standard. And Vortix can almost read into that. Cloud Kingdom is a map where you can get good overload scouting, 1 on the natural, 1 upside the main base, and it is easier, a lot easier to read what your opponent's doing compared to Metropolis. And I think that's probably the main reason why the SDC chose a strategy like that. There's only 1 overload there, there's only 1 way for it to go in, Marines are going to guide that 1 way, therefore he could do anything he wants to.
And we already have a game invite for game number 2 now, so of course Vortix is just 1 game away from advancing into the semifinals here. Of course, he's accumulating those DreamHack circuit points as well at the same time. He's already up to 12. If he scores 1 more, not only is he in the money, but he also gets 20 points to his name.
A lot of points, and that pushes him for the DreamHack Winter qualification spot. 24-player tournament, $85,000 on the line at DreamHack Winter, but I'm sure both of them right now very much so concentrating on the task ahead of them. They are both in the game. Oh, sorry, Vortix is currently not in the game. He will be momentarily here before we get this next map underway. But going on to Cloud Kingdom, I think that, like as we said before, the SDC has to go back to his bread and butter style, more traditional, nothing risky, nothing that's going to gamble a lead away. Because when you gamble like that, you could be playing on the same level as your opponent. You could be with the same economy, the same army. But when you do something like that, you take a risk to be even further ahead than you should be. But if it doesn't work, you fall even further behind than you actually should be as well.
Yep, that's right, and that's exactly what we saw there, because even though Vortix didn't have the best of engagements running into his opponent's base when SDC had that nice defensive position, he still had enough of a lead that he could sacrifice some of those units and still continue to power ahead. So there we have it, guys. We're moving into game number 2 in a second. Just a reminder to everyone who is just joining us, we're going to be broadcasting every single game from the round of 8 all the way to the finals. We're going to find out who takes that share of the 150,000 Swedish krona prize pool. We're going to find out the 2 people that get the automatic invites to DreamHack Winter, and who else is going to accumulate points along the way.
Absolutely. So once we're done with this series, Vortix and the SDC, Stefano will be coming to the stage, playing against 4GG. Millennium War off there, bit of history between those two players. But right now, Vortix still not quite in the game. We will be getting underway with this as soon as we can. Any predictions on how you think this is going to be just a 2-0 sweep out?
I think there's a good chance of it happening. I think if SD plays a lot more defensive macro style, sits back and plays standard, I think he's going to have a lot better chance. But Vortix has shown that he's very, very adept at being able to deal with that. So this isn't just a homer pick because we're here in Spain, but I honestly think that Vortix is going to take this at 2-0. All
right, so we're just finding out what's going on. He's just watching the replay apparently, so we will be getting into that momentarily. Just kind of finding out, how that reactor Hellion play started off, because that was a very close moment, because one little mishap there, the game could have been over. The drone line could have been compromised. Everything would have fallen down. But that was really clutch defense, and I'm sure he's looking at all the clutch transfuses. And of course, there is the beautiful audience that we have here in Valencia, getting ready for the next game here, of course, supporting their home favorite, Vortix.
Now, you mentioned before what we're likely to see from the SDC, a little bit more standard style. On the flip side, how do you think that Vortix is going to switch things up, or is he going to continue to play a little bit reactionary, find out what the SDC is doing?
I think that's exactly right. He's going to be playing reactionary more so than ever before after that initial game. He's going to be trying to feel out the SDC. What is the SDC going to bring to the table? What is the SDC going to do to beat Vortix? That's exactly how he should be approaching this game. Going in, I'm the better player. I'm already 1-0 ahead. I'm going to the semifinals. How are you going to stop me? And through that, we'll be scouting a lot more intensively. And it looks like we are now ready to get into map number 2.
That's right. The game is loading up right now on Cloud Kingdom. And we'll see what both these guys can offer here in a second. And we are in the game, and in the top right-hand corner of the map, we have our red Terran player from Quantic Gaming. It is the Thestc. And his opponent in the lower left-hand corner, our blue Zerg player from Karante Esports Club, up 1-0 in the set, trying to move to the semifinals. It's Vortix!
And of course, Vortix and his brother Lucifron have always put Spanish esports on the map, but recently they have put it on the map with the results in the WCS last weekend, the result here as well, Vortix managing to make it to the live show, to the round of 8, the quarterfinals, going up against a very strong and solid Korean player here, and we're about to find out what's going to go on. Of course, we do have the supply depot wall off on the front there to prevent anything, to deny scouting, but the main focus is going to be, how is Vortix going to scout? Is he going to get in there earlier on? Is he going to see what could potentially come in? Is the STC going to play normal and not even need Vortix to be scouting out?
Well, he is already bypassing a bunker. Oh no, the barracks is going to be built outside of his base. We see a lot of Korean players doing this. It's going to confuse his opponent for a second until he finally locks down on it, but nothing really going to come of this. A couple of Marines out a little bit forward position.
I mean, yeah, there's still an option. He could throw down a second barracks if he doesn't queue up another SCV. And right now, he actually is going to throw down a second barracks here. And this is not a rushed out double barracks here. It's not like 11-11. It doesn't have the big power punch to it you'd usually see, especially because it's on the other side of the map. But it does have the surprise element, depending on how the drone scouts this. And it is smart for Vortix to drone scout on a 2-play map like this. And he has not seen the first barracks here. We'll have a look on the naturals. Not going to find it either. But upon he actually should be checking that south side. It's very unusual for a Zerg player to go in, not see anything, and then return home. He absolutely should move down.
And let's see, he is going to check towards the left-hand side. He sees barracks number 1. We'll see if he's content with that, though, and doesn't check for barracks number 2, which is sitting outside of the main, or outside the natural, I guess I should say. Oh, we already saw the drone queued up towards that direction, and he picks up on both of the barracks. He knows exactly what's coming.
Yeah, and that's always nice. You don't want to... a sense of full security playing against 2 racks in a best of 3, that's for sure. So a really nice start. I don't think we're going to see too much from this. We do have a bunker coming down on the natural, but we still see SCV production falling through. So I do believe that the STC is going to try to just put a bit of pressure on, but they just fall back and expand for this. Really doubt we'll see a big SCV pull, but Vortix is reacting rather well to this. 4 lings on the way, a couple of drones coming down to deal with this, and I don't think this will last much longer.
No, and I like that he's actually DPSing down the bunker as well, because the SCV is not as important here because he doesn't want any threat of it being put up. Hasn't lost a drone quite yet. A couple are getting pretty low, but still doesn't lose a drone at all and has a queen and 4 lings coming out at once. Yeah,
4 lings coming out, 8 more on the way behind those 4 lings, and he'll start to make an assault now to bring this bunker down. The STC is just probably going to cancel it. There's no way he's actually going to pull this off. It was never actually put out there to be anything intense. It's just more of a pressure build. But the STC is still doing Marines, and it's not over yet. With the queens coming down, he may actually want to build a spine crawl just in case, to be honest.
And Vortix does pick up on this, but that was a pretty good engagement initially from the Marines. They're going to be able to take a few extra lings along with them. STC, good control too to back up to his reinforcing Marines, so we make sure he takes out every single little... Oh. And we have a bit of a pause here, unfortunately, as we're waiting on things to get going. A pretty good read by Vortix, though. He knew exactly what was happening. He gets down there. He's able to defend this bunker pressure very, very quickly, and worked out pretty well for him.
All right, so these guys... 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, I mean, right now, really nice control. Oh, Adabisi. Of course, Adabisi is here with us observing.
And that's true. At least it isn't more this time, so... And there we go. All right, he has left the game, so we are back in. 3 Marines still standing. This bunker was given up for the moment, but it looks like that SCV trying to come back, but immediately gets destroyed. Once again, Vortix holding on.
And the spine crawler is coming down there. The bunker doesn't really serve a purpose that far out. You know, the creep's extended out now. A spine crawler's coming down. There is the expansion. Vortix not quite seen it, though, and this should be cancelled in a couple moments' time. Drone production already started here for Vortix, so he's feeling comfortable with the situation as well.
Yes, he is, and the bunker was far enough out that he can still sneak a drone by to be able to pick up a 3rd base if he wants, and not like it's containing him. Sometimes you'll see Terran players that'll stick a unit back there for a while, and STC may be able to get himself a queen kill if he wants, though. The queen actually getting very low in health, has to back up a little bit. There's no lings out there to help defend.
Yeah, he's going to pull a couple of drones here, so the SCC is going to actually salvage a lot of effort that went into this, and he's going to pick up a couple of drone kills, but this will be pushed away now. Is he going to try and get that last drone? I'm sure he'll try to target it down, but it does not work. And now Vortix is in the clear. The green light is on, and with the spine crawler moving up now, this is absolutely going all the way back home.
Yeah, nice job. Vortix does bring up 1 queen initially, but realized that it was very hurt. Sends it back and makes sure that the uninjured one is the one doing most of the damage. And very good control from STC. He almost gets all of a Marine alive, but no. Vortix does win out that fight in the end. A third command center coming up for STC now as he double gasses.
Yeah, and it's a nice build from the STC just to put the pressure on, but we do have double gases coming down now for Vortix. What is the follow-up with this going to be? Is he going to just use that gas to go straight into speed? Is he going to try and take a third base now? Is he going to put it into double evolution chamber? And with the drone moving out now, by the looks of it, to the third base, it looks like we are going to have just a very, very simple third base taken. And unfortunately, this Overlord will fall, but not before it sees... Oh,
he's got to pick the barracks back up. There we go.
Not before he does see the complete barracks wall off. And upon seeing those extra barracks now, he's not completely in the light with what's going on, but he has a decent image of what should be happening here.
So STC has 4 barracks in total along with that factory, and with the third orbital command finishing up, he will be able to saturate his bases very, very quickly. Let's go ahead and take a look at the worker count, if you don't mind. 33 drones to 28 SCVs, but again, that difference will be made up pretty fast by the third command center. Vortix expanding to the low ground now at the third, and just continuing to drone up like a madman.
Yeah, and he should throw down the double evolution chamber in like 10 seconds time, probably to make a wall somewhere, just in case the STC did something a little bit weird here. But with going for the lair initially, he's only on 2 gases, still taking a third and fourth now. We could actually see Spire play from this situation too. I mean, it's not unheard of, but there do come down the double evolution chambers. Meanwhile, back in the STC space, no third base has been taken, as we can see that link checking down, but we do have double engineering bay, which is allowed to happen because of that very early third command center.
Okay, well, getting one of the barracks out of the way now so he can have a little bit of maneuverability with his units. Needs to retake map control with these Hellions, and we'll be able to get that for a short period of time with the Baneling Nest coming up, with the Zergling speed just about to finish, and of course with Lair Tech and eventual transition up into higher tech coming. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to maintain that.
And we do have a small movement out here, 2 Hellions and a bunch of Marines here. And we do only have a handful of Queens out, so Vortix is probably going to have to evacuate this third base for a little bit here. He's got to be careful. 16 Lings are on the way out, though, so combine 16 Lings with a bunch of Queens. Vortix will hold on to this, but it's going to be close, that's for sure.
He's going to take some damage. He's taking the right risk here by exposing his Queens just to be able to pick off a couple of Marines on the way out, and he does manage to keep the vast majority of the health alive there. Nice transfusion just to make sure that those are all back up to full health. He surrounds the Marines and cleans it up no problem. STC does not have a path to sneak Hellions into the natural as well because of that great wall. Yeah,
Vortix is shutting everything down here, and that's kind of been his trademark in this matchup for a very long time. He just doesn't take damage. And then if you think about his training partner in this matchup is none other than Lucifron, his brother. Lucifron always finds a way to get into the drone line, always finds a way for Hellions or Banshees to make their way and to damage the economy, but Vortix, through playing against him so many times within the Spanish Championships, EPS, through training at home as well, obviously has a clutch defense against the majority of Terran aggressive options.
And there's nothing more frustrating than watching a Zerg player who doesn't just put up a structure to defend himself, doesn't keep something adequately blocked, and 4 Hellions completely turn the course of a game around. So now we see the STC moving up to 2 more barracks. He's going to be on 6 racks, 3 bases momentarily once he decides that he has these bases adequately saturated, and we'll see what his plan is going to be from here on out, but otherwise just going up towards a very powerful biomech strategy.
With 6 gases taken so incredibly long for Vortix here, the Spy's about to complete. He's going to be able to make a bunch of Mutalists. They can go for harassment, but he's going to be using them as part of his army, actually a main part of his army, very similar to how we saw him use it previously and throughout the tournament. He's going to be punishing movements out like this. A bunch of Lings and 10 Mutalists with some Banelings, they're going to crush any movement out like this from the STC. And the STC's got to be very careful what he's doing here. Coming down the south side is going undetected so far, but as soon as Vortix knows this, these Marines are just walking to their death.
Right, but he doesn't have any siege tanks to help with this as well. No splash damage to put down whatsoever, and STC poking into the front with a few Hellions, but it's not like it's opening up an opportunity for the Marines at the back, and he does decide to retreat.
And there we do have a Ling poking at the third base, and Marines in the middle. Going to be a little bit caught off guard if the Lings do start to make their way across, which they are making their way across here. And Stim has gone off. Oh, there's a lot more reinforcements coming on, so Vortix will have to evacuate from that situation.
Vortix using this, though, there's a little bit of map control to take his 4th base down in the bottom right-hand corner. He does have 2-2 upgrades on the way and is working pretty heavily towards higher tech. We'll see if he decides to go for more of the Korean, like the TSL Zerg style, and just sit on tier 2 tech for a while, make sure that his upgrades are in place, go for mass Banelings, and just try to overwhelm his opponent.
All right, well, a lot of units are being constructed at the moment, and we very well could see that style. A lot of Lings, a lot of Banelings being made, and 2-2 not that far away. So any loose movement from the STC could be punished here. The STC has to be very careful, but at the same time, he needs to balance that out to put the pressure on to Vortix. Can't just let a Zerg player do whatever they want. But
no.
Vortix is looking to get in here.
And STC does not have a tank sieged up. He finally gets one in place, but is it going to be too late? The Hellions running through as well. That's a lot of Banelings in one place. He's going to have to watch out and make sure that those don't get target fired out. Oh, there was a huge explosion of Banelings. Not that many left over, and the STC cleans that up very efficiently.
Yeah, he deals on with that rather well, but the mutas are still alive, and Ling Banelings being thrown away like that isn't too much of a big deal for Vortix. But as you said, good solid defense by the STC, didn't take any losses to his economy. And at that stage of the game, when both players are on 3 bases, you have to be doing damage to the economy line if you're going to throw away units at a Terran player like that. And because of that, defensive Banelings have to be morphed in case there is a counterattack pushed out here by the STC, who could utilize that, knowing that Vortix did throw away a decent amount of the size of his army. But we do have 2-2 like really approaching fast for both of these players.
For both the players, yes, they're both remaining very, very good about their upgrades. Of course, 3-3 is going to be quite a bit slower for Vortix because he is just now putting up his hive. It's about, 25% of the way done. SCC moving up to a 4th base as well as he starts to get a little position on the map. Going to try and draw some units away while he drops into the natural.
Look at this really nice 1-2 movement. As you said, dropping on the natural, the lack of creep spread on that 4th base is going to hurt Vortix a lot. He really needed that. And now SDC is coming in with a very, very powerful timing, especially now that +2 armor's on the way. The drop is going to hit the natural, and that's going to pull Vortix out of position. And the STC sees nothing's really mining from that base. He may go directly for a position on the 3rd.
That's such a good place for those Marines to sit, too. They can sit there and delay for so long, and that allows these tanks to get in position. The Banelings already getting shot out just a bit, and the hatchery is just continuing to be shelled. So Vortix has to react to this at some point, or he will give up that base for free.
And there's a lot more units coming down for the STC. Vortix is going to go now. Is he going to be able to do it?
I don't know. The Banelings are pretty far at the back. A few infested Terrans hitting at the front. He does land 1 fungal growth on a good number of Marines. Actually, the 2nd fungal growth was a lot better, but look at the reinforcements start to just flood their way in for the STC.
Yeah, and the fungal, I mean, the infestors have no energy, but it's only Lings.
That's right. But he caught the tanks relatively unseized. They weren't able to get off that clutch shot that takes out a lot of Banelings, as we've seen from the STC over the past. So Vortix still in a kind of a testy position, but he keeps his 4th base alive. He needs to continue pressing ahead with his economy.
Yeah, so he actually needs to get the extractors down on that base. And the STC dedicating to targeting down that hatchery, which didn't fall down, and in return losing a lot of his units there, is actually a little bit behind now because he doesn't have any presence on the map to go and be aggressive anymore. That was his one timing to try to slow Vortix down. That is not the case, and Vortix is the one pouncing back now with a Ling underneath the command center, a bunch of Ling and Mutant here to put more and more pressure on these bases. But the more important factor of this game is we see 3-3, Adrenal Glands and the Ultralisk Cavern near completion now, and that is going to make an incredibly strong army for Vortix. Once he gets his 4th base up, the gas is running, he will be able to power that strong army.
And Kindness Blading researches very quickly, so the Ultralists are going to be very powerful, very, very fast. We also see the Broodlords, or the Greater Spire, I should say, coming up, so there is the threat of a tech transition as they move along, because once again, we're in a position where the STC is preparing almost exclusively for Ultralisks. He's got a lot of Marauders coming out, did a second ago, there's a few more. A lot of tanks hitting the field, but almost no air units to speak of.
And right now, the SCC needs to do something similar to what we saw before. Move out with a big army and drop at a different location and try to pull Vortix apart. Because if Vortix concentrates on just one army, he's going to have probably the best engagement possible. But instead of Ultras, we are seeing the Greater Spire being morphed and Corruptors being made. So he's going up straight to Broodlords here. The STC does have a strong position. He's going to look to try to bunny hop his way down. And that is not what Vortix wants.
81 workers to 72, so very high economy for both of our players so far. Nice again to pick off the Banelings that were sitting there. That can always be very deadly for a player to deal with, and that's not where Vortix wants to engage, not now at the very least, because that position is just so strong, and this base is in quite a bit of danger.
Oh, is the SCC going to get that base before the Greater Spire is done? It looks like it is, because Vortix already evacuated it, did not want to lose the drones. Big win by the SCC, 200 supply, but the problem is the Greater Spire is coming in, 8 Broodlords are morphing. Look in the production tab, we have 2 Starfall catapults coming out. That is quite a way away from having a decent Viking count to deal with those Broodlords. So the STC is doing damage. He did hurt the economy of Vortix, but is he going to have the Vikings out, the actual anti-air out in time before the Broodlords make their deathly march?
Because here's the thing, he's max. He has no supply to build Vikings whatsoever. So unless he frees them up here in a second, at a point when Vortix may be able to take a huge engagement, STC will have no presence whatsoever in the air. Vortix still in a very tough position, especially as this base down the bottom right-hand corner is now under fire and going to go down, but we'll see if he can cut off this army in the middle of the map.
Broodlords are very, very slow at moving across the map. We do have the base go down. Another win for the STC, really playing well in this game. 3 backup command centers are at the north side as well, but Vortix is going to go!
And he catches all the tanks unsieged. That is a beautiful position, and he catches everything with the fungal growth as well. The Broodlords are coming in behind, and there's almost nothing the STC can do about that. He's still inflicted his damage, though. Vortix did lose a lot of supply, but he's building it back up very quickly. He's going through his bank of resources very fast, but that was the kind of engagement he needed, catching STC's half of his army out of position.
Yeah, that was really good. That was like the best engagement Vortix could have wished for there. And now the Broodlords are going to do damage to the ground units here. They have to get ready to go. But look in the production tab again, the Vikings are coming out, the Thors are coming out. So right now, Vortix does have a good army. He did beat down that big army of the STC, but the STC on 4 bases with 3 backup orbital commands to power through with mules, he's already heading towards the anti-Broodlord Infestor Corruptor army.
He may be doing just that, but Vortix is going to need to establish some more mining bases to be able to continue to press this forward. He has more infestors coming up, but that's using about all of his available gas. Over on the left-hand side, a base did just finish up, and he's transferring some drones over, starting to reestablish gas mining, but he really doesn't just need a 4th base, but also a 5th.
And the problem is, we do have this army making its way forward now. The problem is, though, is that Vortix, if he loses this army, the game's technically over. He does not have enough money, or the STC's coming from behind with Thors, Marines, and Vikings here. And he's got to be careful. There's not that many infestors either, so not that many fungal growths available.
So the Broodlords need a turnaround. They can deal with the Planetary Fortress later. They pulled some SCVs off the line for a while, but he can't lose this entire army. And the Vikings are starting to make their way in, picking away at the Corruptors that are a bit out of position. The Broodlords finally trying to deal some damage to the Marines that are coming from the north as well. Fungal Growth's actually pinned down quite a few units. The Corruptors are starting to slowly win the battle in the air, but most of the Broodlords have been destroyed. Only 3 more stand.
Only 3 more stand indeed, and Vortix is being pushed back. Only a couple of Thors remain here, though. Where are the reinforcements? We do have 8 Marines on the left-hand side here, making the way to Vortix's economy, and this may pull him out, pull him away from the economy of the STC and the army.
Vortix has done a nice job of dealing with the Viking count, though, but he has no response to the space going down to the left, and he's losing infestors. That 4 hit point Thor is killing so much stuff.
All right, now the Corruptors are really protecting these Broodlords, but not so much for Marines on the low ground, and the Marines are going to head towards these Broodlords. One is going to fall down, a handful of Marines bring down the last one, and Vortix is in a world of trouble. The STC is playing extraordinarily well here. He's even got a Planetary Fortress set up in the top left, which is going to be able to fuel the mule as he continues to power up his economy, power up his income, and is going to start to rebuild an army. But the tech switch is in. We're seeing it now. 4 Ultralists with 1 already out. Is that going to be enough with Fungal? Maybe, but there are no infestors on the map right now. They have to start coming out in numbers.
But as AWC is showing, the SCC is already preparing for it. He's got a bunch of Marauders. He's completely switched over to those. It's all ground attack units and support units, so he knows exactly what his opponent's up to. Vortix may need to morph in a few more Broodlords just to have a fighting chance against this.
Yeah, Vortix is in a world of trouble at the moment, really looking for a different angle to get in. And we do have Lings taking the Xelnoga Tower, making a movement forward here. Ultras are ready to go, but there's a lot of Marauders here at +3. Medivacs here, and if this fight actually commences here, Vortix could easily lose this.
He's got to back out. That's a stim from a few units to try and take position here. He grabs the Xelnoga Tower. As we can see, 6 Ultralisks and 8 Corruptors. That's about all of the army. Few Infestors in there as well for Vortix against a ton of Bio on the ground for the STC. Now, Bio is still fragile. Couple of Fungal Growths and a good engagement with Ultralisks, and Vortix could turn that around, but the STC is just powering ahead on 5 bases now, and a 5-base Terran is very hard to stop.
Indeed, it is very, very difficult to stop, and that's going to be the really downfall of Vortix in this game. Is we do have this army movement forward, but the STC is ready. Stims up saying, bring it on.
And Fungal's not catching that many units because the STC was only pushing ahead with a few of his forces there. There's some pretty good Fungals. It gives good surface area for the Ultralists at the back, but look at the sheer power of those bio forces and the tanks on the high ground. The Ultralists are in full retreat.
And this expansion on the left-hand side is going to fall again as the STC appears with another drop, and that is going to fall down. Great Fungal by Vortix, though, getting a lot of these units down. But look at that, the Ultralists just die no matter how hard they want to fight against Marauders. It is not a viable option as Marauders keep on shredding them apart.
And even though the STC lost a lot of medevacs there, you can see in how dominant a position he is at the moment. His production is amazing. He's producing a bunch of bio units, 2 tanks, 4 medevacs at a time. So he's going to be in a position where he'll have enough medevacs where Fungal's not going to do that much damage because he'll be able to heal up so many of the units so quickly. And
this tug-of-war game right now is really in favor of the STC, who's got position on his opponent's probably last efficiently mining base. And good game is called as the STC does draw up this game, and we are going to the final map.
That's right, 1-1, moving to game number 3 in a great way to kick off our final 8 players here at DreamHack Valencia. This has been an especially impressive performance out of both players. STC had control of the vast majority of that game and just never let it up. Always had good decision making.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, one of the great things about playing on Cloud Kingdom as Terran is once you get an established position on that 4th base of the Zerg player, and if you do bring it down, which we saw happen before the Broodlords are quite ready, that's really one of the big problems with going Broodlords over Ultras. They take a lot longer to actually come out, and that distance between Ultras and between Broodlords was probably the biggest timing in that game, which we saw the STC use so efficiently to bring down and really get his thumb on top of Vortix.
All right, so what is that 3rd map going to be now?
It is going to be Ohana going on to the last one.
Ohana, an interesting map for TVC as we've mentioned before, and I don't know, you think we're going to see something similar out of these 2 players once again?
I think pretty much we're going to see standardized play, but it is very difficult to make the decision to go for an all-in on a 2-player map like this. Could be game-winning, it may not be at the same time. So we'll have to find out how this is going to really evolve going into this next map. One thing for sure, though, is that Vortix cannot afford to lose momentum. That's going to be really important on a map like this. On a map like Ohana, it plays out very similar to Antigua Shipyard. If you lose momentum, you're going to lose the game.
All right, well, we'll see what these players can offer here in a second. Ohana's been a popular choice for TVC in this tournament. Seems like every match that we've gone across, it has popped up. Of course, with just a 5-man pool, that is certainly bound to happen eventually. It looks like our players are actually taking a look at the replays at the moment. And I have a remote control here, but this is just to stop our preview monitor from turning off. Pay no attention to that. There we go.
Okie doke.
All right, so we're going to move into game number 3. So who out there thinks that Vortix can come back and take game number 3?
I think a lot of people are hoping for that to happen here. I mean, no question in my mind. It's going to be difficult for both of these players. They are really strong competitors that have played extraordinarily well across the weekend, going through group stage number 1, group stage number 2, the round of 16, 12-hour day yesterday, looking at a very long day already today, approaching the 7-8 hour mark already for both of them.
That's right, but it's been a good performance for all of our players so far. Of course, everyone who makes it into the round of 8 is guaranteed 12 points in DreamHack points. The people who advance to the next round, the round of 4, they're in the money, though. They win 20,000 Swedish krona guaranteed, about $3,000 US. And of course, they're in prime position to play for one of those guaranteed seeds at DreamHack Winter.
All right, and we're going to be getting onto this game now. It looks like everybody is in. Everybody is ready to get this game underway. They're just changing the colors before we do make our way in to the final map between the last remaining Spanish player in the entire of the tournament. It is, of course, Cronte Vortix going up against the STC. A very, very solid matchup between both of these guys. Very equal in skill, as we can see, going back and forth. Well, let's find out the conclusion to this story.
That's right. We are in the game now. So Vortix versus the STC, a pretty dominant game by each player in the respective game that they've won so far. Vortix dominating game number 1, STC dominating game number 2. So we'll see what they can offer now. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner of Ohana, we have our red Terran player from Quantic Gaming. It is the STC. And his opponent in the upper left-hand corner, our blue Zerg player from Caronte Esports Club, trying to take a game back and move into the semifinals. It is Vortix. The Vortix fans are out in power here, as we can see. Everyone supporting their fellow Spaniard.
Yeah, they are the whole nation behind Vortix at the moment to see if they can push and give him an edge to get past this very difficult Korean opponent. Of course, the score currently tied apart. Both of them have the opportunity to move on to the next round. Let's see who has the either tiger to make that happen, as we do go into a very dangerous map, Ohana, a two-player map here. Anything's possible. Two base all-ins, very strong on this map because it is difficult to scout. There's not that many locations for either of them to getting good intel, to getting good information. And already we do see a barracks come down. It is a 12 barracks.
Right.
And maybe we could see a secondary one come as well, very similar to how it was played out previously. We'll have to find out if the STC is going to dedicate to something along those lines.
That's right. This is so far a mirror of last game. We'll see what the STC does. He already actually does have a 14th SCV queued up, so not likely to be a second barracks from now, although he could flip it on its head. Vortix scouting at the exact same time that he did last go-around, and he should be able to pick up on that barracks pretty efficiently. Let's see, is that close enough? I think it may just be out of vision as the drone comes in if he ducks directly into the main. And
of course, it's not just the Spanish fans that want to see Vortix go through. A lot of the WCS spectators from last weekend would love to have the rematch between Vortix and Stefano once again if Stefano was to make his way through 4GG. But the drone does go in, and it will just see, I mean, nothing to begin with, but will eventually find that barracks. It's very rare that you'd see the drone not check around the main and the natural here, and as the drone does fall down, it will see that barracks.
Yep, and picks up even on this SCV that was constructing the command center. Of course, STC wanted to hide that for a while. It's not really a surprise. Of course, he's going to go for a gasless fast expand, but if he's able to hide that SCV away, if he doesn't see a command center coming up at a normal time, it could still possibly trick him into thinking that there's a second barrack somewhere on the map, but obviously we see that that's not the case. Vortix going up for his spawning pool now, not investing into gas at the moment. We may just see another 4-queen build out of him.
I wonder if the STC is going to change it up and maybe play mech here. Could be an option. I mean, he's not really a mech player. He does much prefer the bio-tank style. But with the double gases coming down by the STC, of course, he's going to be shooting straight towards that factory after this initial command center. And it has the options to be aggressive himself, to be able to harass with Hellions and Banshees. But actually, Hellions and Banshees is one of the strongest defensive builds as well. Having Hellions and then Banshees to deflect any Ling and Roach attacks is actually really, really strong too. So it's just one of the best all-around builds that Terran players have in their arsenal to combat players such as Vortix and players that play Zerg.
That's right, and we haven't seen anything conventional like that from STC. Game number 1 was that double reactor Hellion build. Game number 2, he decided to go into 2 barracks. This Overlord does escape vision for now, but of course can be easily hunted down later on. If he wants to sacrifice himself to be able to check out his opponent's main, he won't have that much health to go around.
So we do have the additional queens coming down for Vortix, going up to a total of 4. The options of aggression still open. I mean, he hasn't shot them out yet, but as longer this game goes on and the later these gases come down, the less likely that's going to actually happen. And we see the STC hunting out for Overlords. Hasn't actually scouted anything in this game, really just banking on Vortix doing the same thing over and over and over. And that could actually hurt. I mean, it could have hurt him if we had have seen Vortix try something a little bit special here. But as we do see, the STC mapping out his build rather well.
You know, but normally Zerg players will prepare for this, but Vortix has seen 2 unconventional strategies so far. So the question remains, is he going to adequately prepare for Banshees, or maybe because STC hasn't shown them twice in a row, they can get in there and do a little bit more damage?
Third hatchery placed down now by Vortix, and these Marines still trying to keep that Overlord away. Do not want to just reveal what's going on, and we see 3 gases taken by Vortix, absolutely aiming towards getting the Zergling speed out as fast as possible, and then just banking up money, roughly 250 gas, so that he can get the +1 carapace and also the +1 melee attack for those Zerglings. Make sure that they do have those upgrades to combat anything that could potentially be coming from the STC, who is opening up with Hellion and Banshee with Cloak.
Yeah, that's right. Cloak Banshee's coming out now with the amount of Hellions, like you said, could provide a pretty high DPS attack. Now, of course, buildings that are constructing have virtually no vision around them, so this bunker is completely in the dark. We do see a blue dot above the 3rd, though. I think that's just an Overlord floating around, but unfortunately it's not getting in position to be able to see this.
Uh-oh, Vortix has to worry a little bit here because he's going to lose this 3rd base. The STC's got a bunker, and with 3 Marines in a bunker backed up by a couple of Hellions and a potential Banshee that should be on its way any second now, Vortix is in trouble. I mean, it's not going to cost him the game or anything, but it will slow him down. The bunker has completed. Are we going to see a cancellation on that? 4 queens move to the... Oh no, they move up.
But at the same time, the STC makes his way in with a bunch of Hellions, and there are so many grouped up drones here. This is going to be a lot of economic damage for the STC. Controls this right. The Queens are making their way back to deal with the Hellions, but already 6 workers have gone down. And add on top of that, STC is still doing tons of damage to this base off to the right-hand side, which was actually finished now, and is going to result in the loss of 300 resources.
Oh, these Hellions are just buying time. The Banshee comes in, and Vortix is going to lose that hatchery. The Hellions do go down, but that doesn't matter anymore. The hatchery falls, and that's a big, big blow to the Spanish player who's making a lot of lings at the moment. Speed not yet done. Spore Crow's coming in because this cloak even has Banshee. I mean, even has a cloak. The Banshee has cloak, and it even gets into the drone line.
That's right, Apollo, I'm picking up what you're putting down. And the drones are now under attack, but this is so devastating because there's just no detection around this Banshee. 5 kills already, going to grab a 6th, 7th here in just a bit. Continuing to rack up the worker kills. STC still has a hard contained over on the right-hand side. With that bunker, it's going to be very difficult for Vortix to reestablish a 3rd. Now, we saw players like Stefano, when they were put in this position from players like Tasia, drop down a 3rd underneath the main. That's still a very difficult proposition for Vortix.
If only Vortix knew there was a command center being built on that 3rd location, he'd go there, snipe the STV, and force a cancel there. But we are going to be seeing the mech come out from the STC. We did debate on whether that's going to actually happen, and it is. So a nice start here for the STC. But remember, this is exactly the same style that Lucifron has been using game in, game out. So Vortix will know how to play against it well, but playing against it from behind is a completely different scenario.
Now, Vortix does have up an Overseer, so we can start to ward away these Banshees in the middle of the map. But with the Hellions here, this is still a pretty decent DPS army. It can still do damage even if picked up on. So the Banshees are going to back up for now. Make sure they get the Queens off of creep, but they're a little bit slower and less maneuverable, and you can more effectively kite. And
a single Ling's going to make its way down here and see what's going on. Checks the 3rd base, sees the gases, and now Vortix knows that he's playing against mech. He knows exactly what's going on here, and he's going to have to start to change around a little bit. I mean, he's got to be so careful against potential run-bys by Hellions. He's building even more Lings at the moment, and he could actually start to make an assault towards this 3rd base.
We'll see if he does just that. With 10 Lings on the way, he is going to be able to clean up these bunkers here. Nice job to transfuse up those Queens once again. Looks like all the Marines tried to duck inside of the 2nd bunker that was put up, but both of those are salvaged. So a lot of resources back to the STC, who is continuing to advance forward. Scans, picks off some active creep tumors, but has to back out because all the forces did kind of congregate there for Vortix.
And now Vortix is able to go take that 3rd hatchery, of course. It's going to be very difficult to try and do any form of aggressive play here, just because there's 3 Banshees out. There's a lot of Hellions too, and then there's going to be Thors coming into the field right now. Oh my god, going straight up to Hive here. Incredibly fast Hive. Really banking on the fact that the Banshees aren't going to go in, because as soon as the Banshees go in and see that there's a Hive, immediately STC could try to move out with a handful of units, even though that's not really what you'd like to do with Meg. But against this style, there's only 6 Infestors and a handful of Lings to fight against anything. That's really, really weak here, and Vortix is taking a gamble, taking a risk to get back into this game.
Yeah, it is a big risk with 2-base Hive, essentially, as the 3rd base is still only about 40% of the way done. But Vortix needs to do something because he is playing at a significant disadvantage here.
And he does build 16 more Lings as well. And it looks like after this Ling set where we see coming out, it will go back to drone production so we can start to saturate this 3rd base ASAP. Because the Ultralis Cavern, the Ultralis Cavern is going to come down immediately. And what we're most likely going to see is an attempt to just sandwich an army while the STC is completely unexpecting it, because that's kind of the only thing that Vortix can do to super get back into this game. But I'm sure that he's played from this scenario before, so this could actually work out really well for him.
He has a fair number of Infestors down as well, so he'll have a little bit of meat. He'll be able to surprise the Banshees as well if he can keep them all grouped up. This is certainly a risk worth taking, but is it going to pay off for Vortix? STC now powering ahead. He's got a lot of Thors coming out. He's even continuing with his Banshee production. Oh, but a great fungal there. Captures a lot of Hellions in the middle of the map.
Yeah, that was nice. That really helps out a lot, because now the threat of any push is now really brought down, because you need the Hellions to buffer for a lot of attacks. But with Blue Flame Hellion about to be out, we may see some more aggressive Hellion play. The one thing I'm really surprised that we haven't seen that much of is the continuation of harassment through the Banshees. The Banshees really need to be doing something here, getting into the drone line, scouting out, because the Ultralis Cavern is finished, and we see the FCC with absolutely no idea about what's going on.
Ultralisk Cavern does end now. Adrenal Glands on the way, and that is an upgrade that takes quite a while to finish up, but Banshees are able to successfully deny that fourth. Vortix once again continuing with good creep spread, though. He's done that pretty much the entire set. A lot of active creep tumors running through the middle of the map. There are a ton of them, as a matter of fact. Thestc finally going up to a fourth command center himself as he continues to attack on Thors. Pretty much all Thors. Can we take a look at the unit count here? I want to see what he has out there. Yeah, 6 Thors, not a single siege tank to be found at all.
And the Banshees making their way across a lot of Thors here. The 2-2 upgrades almost finished, but look at that. The Ultralisks are almost finished at the same time, and the SCC is going to be in for a bit of surprise here. Combine the Ultralisk with the Ling and Infestors, then the SCC could be walking home with his tail in between his legs. He has no idea about what's really going on. That first reveal was the lair, not the hive, so this could be very nice for him. The Ultras are now popping out. He's going to have to wait for the perfect time to engage, though, with those Ultras.
And he has made his way up. The Banshee now reveals at 15.5-minute Ultralisks, and Vortix is going to go for it. He's got a lot of Speedlings to back this up. That is a huge number of Thors, though. The Ultralisk trying to get in and do damage. One of the Thors falls, but one of the Ultralisks goes down right away. Infested Terrans trying to clean up the rest, but of course, there are enough Hellions there that they were able to eliminate most of the Zerglings before they made their way up, and the SDC continues to power ahead. He only has 3 Thors remaining, though, but I don't think there's enough left for Vortix to be able to completely shut this down.
Yeah, 36 Lings on the way. It almost worked. Vortix, his options, it almost worked. He planned for that very moment there, but it didn't quite work out. But it's still okay. You can still play on 3 bases against this. He needs to take a base on the left-hand side of the map immediately, though, not to fall too far behind. But with 3 more Ultras on the way and a lot more Lings, he did lose quite a lot, though. He lost a lot of Infestors there. He was up to like 10, and now he's only at 3.
Yep.
And that's really important to keep those Infestors alive, to use the energy rather than units. But this is a very strong force here by the SCC, neglecting tanks for the majority of this. But 5 Ultras, they can win this now that they have the upgrades necessary.
We'll see here if Vortix can get that perfect sort of engagement he needs. With 18 more Lings coming up, he will have a considerable force to be able to buffer some of the damage, but there's still a lot of Hellions out. If you can find a way to keep a fungal on those, deal with him with the Ultralisk while the Lings surround the Thors, he'll be in a pretty good spot, but he needs that absolute perfect engagement moving forward.
Yeah, the problem is that Hellions just buffer so much with the Ultras. They just keep on attacking. It takes like 3 shots to bring down a Hellion or something at this stage of the game, so it's actually very difficult to get connecting to the Thors as the Ultras really want to do. 3 Infestors are there. They're going to be the ones that are needing to lock down. This is the only hope for Vortix in this game. If he manages to lock everything together and gets the perfect engagement, maybe the option of moving on is still available.
Okay, well, it's going to come down to this. Fungal's pinning a lot of units in up at the front, but look how quickly the Zerglings die to the Blue Flame Hellions. The Ultralisks, they're going right through the buffer of the Hellions, but the Thors have just not been touched. There's GG, well played. Vortix goes down, and STC moves on to the semifinals.
The STC moves on. A really great series play by the STC. Really, really good play by him there.